Arkansas's Taylen Green display elite physical tools and why an NFL team should take him and develop him.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Guys, we have to recap the quarterbacks, those money makers, the bag fumblers who helped themselves, who hurt themselves at the NFL scouting combine when it pertains to the quarterback position. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Keith, who made themselves some money for you when you looked at the quarterbacks that performed at the NFL 2026 NFL Scouting Combine?
Yeah, so I think having this conversation, there's two elements, right? There's the athletic testing element, right? Where you can say some people won via the athletic testing, and then I think there's the throwing portion to where, you can say that people won. I'm going to start with the throwing part, and I'm going to just start at the very top of this class of the most high-profile quarterback. I thought Ty Simpson, in my opinion, throwing the football looked clean, right? Then we talked about the split, right? The first, was it 9 games of the season versus the last 4 or 5, something around that, right? Ty looked like the first 9 games, where when we bought in and we came on this show and we talked about, man, the timing, the anticipation, and most importantly, the accuracy. This young man, he was accurate with the football. And we hear this term a lot, DP, and it's throwing a catchable football. His football looks easy to catch, right? Like it's smooth. It comes in with a great delivery. And you just watched his arm. I would call it arm talent, because will we ever put him in a bucket of one of the strongest throwers we've ever seen? No, that's not his bucket, right? But his bucket is arm talent, meaning being able to mix speeds, mix pitches, right? Change trajectory of the football. I think we've seen all of that from Ty Simpson. So starting at the very top, I think Ty had a good showing and kind of etched himself, to me, in my opinion, etched himself in stone as QB2 in this class. And now it's just a matter of who's going to take him, take a swing on him in the first round. I think that's the conversation.
Yeah, no, I think Ty did a great job. I mean, I like all the quarterbacks. I think all of them had like a couple misses because you don't know these receivers. You're trying to anticipate the breaks and stuff like that, and everybody doesn't run routes the same or coach the same the way that you're used to your guys running and things of that nature. That's why I forgot, like Fernando Mendoza said, yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm the #1 overall pick, so I'm actually really good. I'll wait till Indiana. You guys can come see me there, and I'm throwing to Surratt and Cooper, and we'll probably see Charlie Becker out there catching passes, getting already out in front of scouts and stuff for next year. But I think Ty did a good job. The accuracy was there. I think the footwork was such a big thing for me. I'm always watching the technique of players, and your base is important. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you can throw from a good solid base, wide base, you're loading up the back foot, driving throws, stuff like that. His arm is good enough. It's more than good. Like, I don't think he's got a great arm. It's good, and he can make all the necessary throws, live in the middle of the field, throw outside the numbers, things like that. So definitely like what I saw from him. Can I go to Taylen Green? Like, and I tweeted out the athleticism stuff I didn't really care about because I know what he was. You know what I mean? I know what that was going to look like. Like, if you watch Taylen Green, you've seen him outrun SEC defenders for like 2 years now. Like, you know what I mean? You watched him outrun dudes. I think for me, the arm talent, you saw that ability to drive the ball, whether it was outside the numbers, in breaker. I think he had some misses because you can still see he's thinking throughout his drops of trying not to be heel clicky and having his feet too narrow. Like, you could tell. I was watching some of his throws even before we recorded. I'm just like, that's one of those reps where it's like the ball got a little away from him because his feet weren't where they're supposed to be. And then you see when his feet are lined up and they are where they're supposed to be, He can layer the ball. He can drive it with power and pacing and do everything he needs to do. And I think for him, it's not so much about moving yourself into round 1 or even round 2. I think he's a day 2. Like, I have him as a kind of borderline 3rd, 4th, just kind of high, based off of my last time I changed his grade was after the season and around the Senior Bowl. But one thing we know, 6'5", 6'6", 240, elite athleticism, arm talent. He's accustomed to being in a pro-style system, and you see the flashes. He's streaky in terms of accuracy, and a lot of that ties back to his mechanics. And you say, you know what, if I can draft this kid 3rd round, he sits, and we actually let him like sit and marinate on the bench while we work on those things with him. He gets to watch a vet, a pro that has been in the league for so long, or whatever the case may be, like not saying he goes to the Rams, but a Stafford. Any of these situations, you bring in a Gardner Minshew or Russell Wilson, and he gets to watch those guys who are mechanically sound, right? They're just in the back end of their careers, but you get to watch them start. Or if you're a team goes against Geno and you need a quarterback, like, let me go ahead and draft him 3rd round. I think he helped himself just from the aspect of painting that picture of that developmental quarterback that you want to have on your roster.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? With that synopsis. And from scouting DP, I always find it year to year interesting what we decide to buy into at a high level or not, right? And the ebbs and flows of the scouting community, NFL owners, NFL general managers, and I always talk about this, right? The narrative that is painted / said, right, about a player, and it's in a weird way, I don't want to say it's politics, right? But it's almost what you can get people to believe in. Because when I watched Taylen Green and his performance, I thought of 2 guys, right? And both of these guys are going to go much higher than him. But I think when you look at it, does Taylen have the edge because he has a lot more playing experience? And I thought of Trey Lance, right, who's a top 5 pick. I thought of Anthony Richardson, who was a top 5 pick. And the case that I'm making is for Taylen Green. Like, he's played much more football, right? I think he's a 5th, maybe a 6-year guy, a 6-year quarterback, because he spent 2-3 years at Boise State also. And just the point that I'm trying to say is as far as being a winner, I agree with that, because in a sense of the fact of, if we bought into those guys' physical tools, Taylen Green has a much larger resume, right? And played a lot more football. So you're talking about a young man that's 6'6", ran a 4.3, right? Like, why wouldn't we buy into that potentially as a top 100 pick if we bought into it 5 years ago as a top 5 pick, right? Like, so I look at it from that perspective, and I'm like, man, like, okay, so when you get to these quarterbacks and in drafting Taylen Green, I think Taylen is a prime candidate for, I have a veteran quarterback that I may not have long, right? The Kirk Cousins potentially on the move, the Kyler Murray's on the move, the what do you do with Aaron Rodgers, right? The Atlanta Falcons situation with Michael Penix potentially, JJ McCarthy with the Minnesota Vikings, right? He's a prime candidate for place him, stash him, sit him, right? And give him a year or 2, and then now let's see, because truth of the matter is, DP, I don't even necessarily have a large issue with his mechanics. Or let's say this, I feel like it's number 2 is his mechanics. Number 1 is the decision making, right?
Yeah,
and we've seen that at the Senior Bowl. Is more like if he fixes the decision making, then the mechanics part is not horrible, right? Like, it's not like you can't play in the NFL at all. And he has the physical tools. So I look at it like that, and I agree with you. I think he was a winner, because do you get general managers start scratching their head and say, what could we do with this, right? I'm talking about a 4.3 athlete at the quarterback position that it's not like it's not on film. Like you said, at Arkansas is out there. At the Senior Bowl, that one rep when he broke down the sideline, I was standing right there, and I was like, oh my God, right? Like that's different. That's different. So I wanted to just, because that thought process was truly, I guess, if we talking about being emotional right now, if it was truly on my heart, right? That was on my heart. Watching
I'm glad you said it.
Just like, man, like the past projects that we've decided to buy into, this guy's the epitome of, in my opinion, DP, the quote unquote word prospect, right? Like a prospect, a projected prospect, and what you can potentially get out of him. Not saying that he's going to be a great quarterback, right? But saying, I mean, and even Will Levis going in the second round, right? He had plenty of film where there was bad football, but we bought into the physical tools, right? So,
physical ability, yeah, for sure.
And I'm gonna flip this on the other side, DP. Malik Willis, right, was a young man, and I can't remember exactly where you fell on this, and because this is my first year with the Draft Network, and I can't remember if you were.
He was my QB1,
huh?
He was my QB1.
He was your QB1. Okay. Now, think about that, right? It was Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett in the draft. Malik Willis had nothing but physical tools. He can run. I think he was a 4.4-ish type athlete, maybe 4.3, somewhere under a 4.5, right? So good athlete at the quarterback position. You watch the film, he had a rocket on, right? For whatever reason, that usually sells in the NFL, right? For a quarterback. But for whatever reason, Malik Willis falls to the third round. But then now you turn around a couple years later, and he's about to get paid $30 million on the market. Right. So that's why I always say, like, when I try to find the consistencies in drafting quarterbacks, a lot of it is narrative, right? Like a lot of it is narrative in what we want to do. So it's definitely interesting. But DP, let's do this, man. I'm gonna give a dealer's choice, and I'm gonna put you on the spot right now, right? We can do this. We can go to the bag fumblers and the guys who lost themselves some money, or we can talk about some more positive quarterbacks, right? I'm gonna give you the option.
Sure.
DP, all the pressure's on you. Which one you want to do?
We're gonna keep it rolling. We're talking about some winners from the court.
Okay, let's do it. That's what we're talking about, man. We have more winners coming up next. Make sure y'all stay tuned.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real TurboTax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go on about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. So head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Continuing our conversation about the money makers or quarterbacks that help themselves to perform well at the NFL Scouting Combine. That's what we're getting into next. Thanks for being an everydayer with us. If you want the show ad-free, check out the Everydayer Club and consider becoming a member. Go to LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com. Keith, Garrett Nussmeyer, man. Like I said, we talked about, Ty and Taylen, and I was like, man, we got to talk about Garrett. Garrett threw the ball well. Garrett threw the ball well. I was in the building when those guys were throwing and things like that. Garrett threw the ball well. He looked good. And I felt like the accuracy, that was probably one of the most confident he's looked since 2024. You know what I mean? And he talked about it. For those who don't know, I'm glad I trust my sources. I heard a lot, during the middle of the season, like, man, Nussmeyer is not healthy. They just wasn't reporting anything. And I was just like, all right. And then he's at the podium. Was that Friday morning? And he said the core injury was basically so bad he had to relearn how to use his core to throw. That's how bad the core injury was. He was like, every time he threw, there was sharp pain in his core. And remember, Brian Kelly and the staff, when he first got hurt, basically played it off like, oh, he's fine. He's going to be ready to go for the season. And I think I came on here and watched the tape from 2024, watched the tape from 2025. I'm like, that's not the same throwing motion. He's not turning. He's not torquing his torso. Not like he's just, and he said it created bad habits for him, whether it was kind of like leaning back to throw, all upper body, not engaging that core because every time he tried to, it hurt. This was probably the healthiest we've seen him. He had a great time at the Senior Bowl. He did well and showcased his ability there. And he just threw the ball well overall. At first, it started off a little slow. I felt like his placement was a little off on some of the slants
I
and
thought
stuff.
early on, and I think it was the out route maybe. I can't remember exactly, but there were a couple of passes that I thought slow. But I thought he heated up, and then by the time they got to the deep ball, like I think he was
good.
Yeah, he was rolling. Yep.
He was all warmed up, like the deep ball was there, dropped it right in the bucket, hit the guy right in stride. And it's like, that's what you want to see. You know what I mean? Were we about to sit there and expect to see what CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson and nobody threw the deep ball like those guys did. You know what I mean? I remember we were there when CJ and A-Rich were battling. Like, it was just like, oh, all right, cool. We going throw for throw here. Like, let's do it. We all saw what Josh Allen was able to do, like, you know what I mean, and really make people get up out their seat. Arm talent wise, we weren't expecting to see any of that from any of these guys, right? Like, I think the biggest arm out there was Taylen Green, but he's not even on A-Rich, and I won't put him on A-Rich and Josh Allen's level in terms of pure arm strength. But the deep ball was there for him. He didn't because you saw some guys struggle with it because they were trying to, like, again, not knowing the receivers and stuff like that. Like, they were kind of popping it up too high, putting too much air on it. Nuss put the right amount of air, right amount of touch, good trajectory, dropped it right in the bucket. I think he did. He had a good day. I think he had a good day overall. Like I said, just being healthy. And that's why I'm happy for it. From just walking around, being in there, hearing conversations, there's a chance that Nussmeyer goes higher than people expect.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that can do the Tyler Shuck and be a top 50 pick out of nowhere, if people weren't expecting. And he still has a pro day to throw it, right? So he goes to the pro day. He's at home, right, in a facility he's comfortable with, and he continues to get healthy over these next few weeks. We'll see when the pro day is, right? And then he just lets it rip. And you can place yourself in the top 50 because, like we've consistently said, DP, this draft combined with the free agency stuff, this is going to be the supply and demand issue situation for quarterbacks. So these guys are going to go. It's just a matter if they go in the first round or if I think potentially, and I know there's some weird stat about second round quarterbacks and how they usually don't pan out, right? I think that was a stat that I seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's anywhere between 2 and 5 quarterbacks going in the second round, just from teams not wanting to take these guys in the first round, but knowing that having a quarterback is a primary need. And a lot of these guys, especially the guy we're about to get to next, right? They have proven resumes of getting it done. They just didn't finish the year off or have a great final year. And that's going to lead me right to Drew Aller, a young man that we haven't seen since, was it in October, I believe?
Yeah, October.
Since October. And he got out there, DP. And I thought that if his calling card or his A trait was arm talent and arm strength, I think he showed it. Those hitches or curls, like the ball was jumping off his arm. It was almost sometimes like you the wide receiver, like, hey, slow that thing down a little bit for me, please. Like I'm trying to get paid too, man. I don't want to drop the ball. Like I'm trying to get paid too. So I thought that part was interesting, but it was good to see him again, right, in the fold.
Yeah.
And real quick, the discussion, because we haven't discussed him in so long, is like DP, I think collectively he's a guy that we both battle back and forth of saying, oh, that was a first round game. Oh, that was a third round game. Oh, that was a first round game. Ah, that was a third round game, right?
So inconsistent.
Inconsistent, but he played to his A trait, and now the conversation is, where do NFL general managers feel like they should land, or if they feel like he's a guy that they can develop, right? And I go back to the narrative. What's the narrative you able to paint? Like, listen, Penn State wide receiver issues and this and that, and it was dysfunction in the head coach, right?
Yeah.
All of those different things. But I think he played, in my opinion, I thought he had a solid combine that kind of got his name back, generating buzz, because he's been out of sight, out of mind.
No, 100%. I mean, I was at his podium on Friday morning when he came out. As soon as I saw the card go up, I was like, I got to hear what Drew's got to say. Like, we haven't seen you in months, you know what I mean? And usually you see guys like, guys that come back from injury, you see them posting like workout videos, like prepping you that the return is near. It wasn't like that with Drew. Drew was kind of radio silent, felt like, and everything. So like when he got up there, he said, yeah, I'm throwing. He said, listen, my goal in the way and the in terms of the intensity that I rehabbed that, this was my goal. I wanted to be here to, at worst, I wanted to throw on the field. He said, I can't, I'm not good. Not that he couldn't. He said he's not going to do athletic drills. You know what I mean? He didn't say he couldn't run. He said, I'm not going to run. So I feel like he probably could run if he needed to. And he was like, I'm ready to play a game right now. Like, he was like, you could see the visible excitement on this young man's face. Like, I've missed this. Like, I've been gone for months now. And to watch him, like you said, there were some throws early where you're like, Drew, that's a little bit too much. Like, you know what I mean? He threw a slant. It was high.
On your chip.
It was high. I was like, Drew, you got to bring that down. Slow it down. And the next one, you can see the mechanics. Like, he got back there. He was smooth through, and he just let it go. It was just like, all right, you pull the string. You put some air underneath that one. You don't have to bullet everything. And I think that's the thing for him, is being consistent as like a multi-speed pitcher and make it like his mechanics. I was watching his footwork, like his base was good. It was sound. Like, he distributed weight well. He wasn't super heel clicky in the pot, like when he was dropping back and stuff. And like you said, you see that natural arm talent is there. And I would be surprised if they came out and said he didn't do well in interviews. I'm pretty sure he absolutely nailed those interviews because he was great with the media. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I know they probably put him on the whiteboard, things like that. There's a lot more for this young man to grow and to become. And I'm excited to see where he lands. I definitely think second round is a real possibility for Drew Aller.
Yeah. DP, let's do this. I want to ask you real quick. Cole Payton, what was your takeaway from Cole? Because I know he was another name.
Cole did well. For the most part. He, again,
like, just for those who don't know, North Dakota State. Yep.
Yes, North Dakota State, 6'3", 228. Like, he can spin it, man. Lefty. Like, he can absolutely rip some throws, like just tight spirals. The accuracy was there. The thing with him is like what you got to work on from a coaching standpoint. It's the deep ball. His deep ball accuracy, it comes in waves. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And I was like, you got to find that consistency there. But the short, like this first and second level, oh yeah, he can rip throws and he can throw accurately in those situations. And he's a 4'5" athlete.
Yep. At that size, would you say it's 6'3", almost 230 pounds, right? So like great size for a quarterback and just checking the boxes for the measurables too. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's talk about those quarterbacks that lost themselves some money, right? We're talking bag fumblers, which guys didn't perform up to par at the NFL Combine. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on, you need the right hire. This is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium placement and status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college football parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever hits your feed. You can apply the profit boost and instantly bump the potential payout upward. Look at the odds around your favorite team if they are in season. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, and now with even more upside behind it. Head over to FanDuel.com right now to get started today. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, Keith. I think it's not like a lot of these guys they didn't have terrible days, but compared to some of their counterparts, they're like, you just didn't meet the mark. Joe Fagano, I talked about him out of UConn. Joe was spraying the ball. Like, he had some just wild placement issues at times. Like, I think he settled in eventually. But I felt like his start and even the middle of his workout, I was just kind of looking like, man, this is not going well. Like you are throwing it everywhere but the target. And I was just like, you got to break. Like it was high on some throws, behind the receivers on some throws. Because he threw, especially the out route. I think the out route gave some guys some issues because it's just like, yeah, it's all about the timing, like trying to anticipate the break of somebody you never threw to. You know what I mean? And I get it. That's difficult. But you can't. One thing you don't do is either listen. Either I'm throwing this thing high and outside, or I'm just throwing it outside to the sideline. What you can't do is throw it inside. And he had a couple of those where it's like behind the receiver, it's inside, and it's like you got to envision, even though it's you and the receiver, you got to envision a DB being there. What happens if a DB's there? You left it high and inside. That's probably a pick six.
Yep,
you know what I mean? Like they're driving it. So that's a touchdown for the defense and for the opposing team, and their offense never touched the field to do so. So he just was just a little wild with his throws, and his placement was off. And I wanted to see him 6'4", like 220. I think the arm is good. I just want to see him just kind of perform better because that's a big opportunity. You out here with some big Power 5 names and Ty Simpsons and Sawyer, all these guys that's out there. Whether you were in that specific group or not, which I think he might have been. No, he was his last name like F. So yeah, I think he's probably in the Taylen Green, Carson Beck, and all those situations. But yeah, I just wanted to see him just be a little more consistent with the accuracy.
Yeah, and I think for him, DP, it was about being a small school guy, right? And this being your opportunity to, kind of say, hey, I'm right on par with these guys, right? To me, in my opinion, I thought that's what it was about. DP, we said that this could be split into two, right? We could go throwing, we can go athletic testing. In my opinion, I looked at Jalon Daniels, the quarterback from Kansas, and I thought a 4.65 is a solid 40 time for a quarterback, right? But I look at when you're talking about in terms of a young man we didn't talk about yet, the Haynes Kings, right? And we talked about Payton already. We talked about Taylen Green, right? Now you're getting into the area DP. I think even Luke Altmaier ran a 4.7, I believe. I think
4.72. Not too far behind Jalon.
Yeah, 4.72. So a guy in Jalon whose bread and butter is quote unquote being a dual threat quarterback, right? And utilizing his legs. I think when you have Taylen Green, you have Haynes King, who probably fits the exact profile of you from a perspective of a running quarterback. And then you also have Payton. That's three guys that elevated themselves or stamped themselves, in my opinion. They're like, yeah, we're more athletic than you, and we have the throwing upside, right? So I thought that kind of where Jalon could have, I don't say one, but maybe one, created more leverage / opportunity for himself. I think the athletic testing being good, not great, and having quarterbacks that tested higher than him will ultimately probably hurt his draft stock.
Yeah, I think that like you talking about the narrative and the perception of you walking in, people assume like if anybody's running 4.4 outside of Taylen Green, you probably thought it was going to be Jalon Daniels. And it was, it's for those who didn't see the times, Taylen Green 4.36, number one. Second was Haynes King with a 4.46. Payton came third with a 4.56. Sawyer Robinson came fourth with a 4.64. And then Jalon Daniels came in 4.65. And again, like he said, it's not that 4.65 is not a good time, but for you in the athletic testing standpoint, as a guy that was viewed and labeled as the true dual threat of the group, you and Taylen Green, you were expecting you to test a little bit better than them. And I mean, I think he thought he threw the ball solid. He was okay. But it's just like none of his workout, in my opinion, really stood out to where you stood out from the pack. You know what I mean? Out there slinging the rock. You didn't test. That was like, even with Taylen Green having some, like he was a little inconsistent throwing the ball, right? Like he had some moments where he sprayed it too high or he was behind or late, you know what I mean? But then you go back and what was the talking point? Like, man, he's 6'6", he runs a 4.3 and he jumped ridiculous. Like he's a ridiculous athlete. It's like, well, yeah, I can, let's work with that. You stood out in some way, shape, or form. I felt like Jalon Daniels, he just kind of nestled into the pack. He didn't stand out from the pack.
Yeah, I agree. I want to ask you this. Let's wrap up with this guy, Haynes King, DP. What was your takeaway from Haynes? Obviously running a 4.4. We knew he was athletic. That's just flat out impressive. To be a 4.4 athlete.
For sure.
Yeah, at the quarterback position. What was your takeaway from Haynes King, Georgia Tech quarterback? Haynes King?
Whatever money he spent and the agency spent on that speed coach, well deserved. You got your ROI because 4.46 for Haynes King is wild. You know what I mean? I didn't no. If you had told me hey, Haynes King's gonna run 4.4, I'm like, you're crazy. Like, because that doesn't show up on tape like that. He's more of a power runner. Like he's got good speed. If you told me he ran the 4.65, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? I see that on tape. I don't see 4.4 like bro. If I'm not mistaken, it's the same time that Arver Reese and Sonny Styles ran. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no. Like, I don't think I know that's the time that has up there. I don't know if they're the same caliber of speed. So yeah, I was a little shocked by that. I thought throwing the ball, he was solid. He was all right. I did like watching his arm. It didn't wow me and everything. I felt like he's a guy that has a solid arm, not a good arm. And it's just like physically, I'll say it. Physically, when especially you run a 4.46 and we know how tough he is, I just wonder, like, is this a guy that you might want to try at slot receiver? You know what I mean? I'm not tasting guys, we cannot Taysom Hill him. Like Taysom was a different build and body type. Like, you know, the way that he runs is how Taysom Hill is built. Like, and Taysom Hill can handle that QB power, QB design run stuff.
You would want Cole Payton more in that role, right? Like
100%.
He's a sturdier guy. Yeah.
I feel like in the NFL, I feel like Haynes King's gonna get hurt. I don't want him running those type. Like, no, absolutely not. But you think about, hey, we transition you to Julian Edelman, was a former receiver. I mean, quarterback that turned receiver. You know what I mean? Like, could you be in that type of mold with that athleticism, that you know, going back to those Patriot teams, Chris Hogan, the former lacrosse player, that was, I think it might have been similar builds too, taller guy that developed into a good route runner, field stretcher up the seam. Could you do those type of things with a Haynes King? I don't know if he has much of a career long term as a quarterback.
I'm with that, and I think that's a very interesting prospect because does that part and the thought of that get him drafted higher, right? Like, will some teams say, hey, this could be for, you know, a couple years, he can be our third quarterback, and then also we plan on developing him into some slot wide receiver by year 2 or year 3, right? And him starting in a slot, and it's not a thing where, I mean, let's unfold this, right? Because you're a 4.4 athlete, so could it be more than a slot, right? Like, could you be his vision, right? Like you've ran yourself into, you can play whatever wide receiver position you want to from a athletic testing perspective, right?
So 6'2", 212, 6'2", 212.
6'2". So. I mean, that sounds like an X wide receiver. You tell me somebody's 6'2", 212, runs a 4.4. Like, that's check. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if Denzel Boston went out and did that, we're like, oh, stamp it, first round wide receiver, right? And obviously, there's a lot more. We're not saying that for sure. Just project them. We're just saying, like, you know, like this could be interesting just as far as the prospect of him, just because of the athletic testing, which I think was probably one of the 40 numbers that caught everybody off guard. And that's regardless of position. I think across the entire NFL combine, he may have had the 40 time that caught everybody off guard the most. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, guys, we are going to bring you a midweek post-NFL scouting combine mock draft. Keith and I will pick for your favorite teams and do the best we can to give you a championship ring. We're going to do that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.